Hi, this is Sergeant Beast Larson. Today we're going to talk about recruiting for correctional officer positions. This is very different, very complicated because it's both prisons and large prisons, small prisons, level 1 through 5. Also dealing with the county sheriff's office, or as in Kentucky here, we have a county jailer that recruits. It's a separate office than the jailer. So dealing with recruiting, what are some tactics that you all have used or don't use? Share and post here in the comments. Love to hear them. I want to talk about a few things that's been in my experience working down there at Hayes State Prison. In Georgia, where I worked in corrections, retired police in Kentucky, moved down to Georgia. My daughter went to nursing school and college there. Got a job at the prison, and they recruited in the newspapers, which is kind of normal. That's how I got recruited, went down. Once I got hired, though, they had a designated recruiting officer, a lieutenant, go to the high schools, and in Georgia, you can be hired at age 18. Now, different states are 21, 2019, like police officers starting at 21. They want people to have a little bit of life experience. So what kind of age, number one, does your state, post in the comments, what does your state do for a minimum qualification age? And then what do you do? The lieutenant shows up. Is the lieutenant in uniform? With just a uniform shirt on, no stab vest? Do they show up in a shirt and tie? Do you have more than one to show up? Do you have a small group to show up? And that makes a difference too, because then it allows, your presentation, you're showing difference. Say you have somebody in a shirt and tie like this, that's, deputy warden. Warden is somebody that's high in administration, or maybe an investigator that would wear a shirt like this, shirt and tie. If you can send a group, 3 to 5 people, it makes a difference, because then you're not just showing a person in uniform and that's it. Does that make sense? You get to show that people can have progression in rank. If they just see somebody, an officer, they're going to think I'm in uniform the whole time. What do people say, young people say, what do you want to be when you grow up in high school? I want to be a detective. Well, I hate to break it to them, but you have to be a police officer first, uniform. You have to work the streets. You have to have some time. You have to interview, go through some training, and then, try and be a detective. And I went through that phase. There's a bunch of us tried at one year. I wasn't picked, but that was okay. But I just didn't get to say, hey, show up to the police department, I want to be a detective. So your variety of uniforms. And if it was up to me, which, I was a sergeant at the prison, I wasn't a lieutenant in charge of recruiting. But if it was up to me, I'd have somebody like this presentation. First, what we're talking about, shirt and tie. I would have uniforms that wear their stab vest. You got to let people know, hey, you're working in a correctional facility. We issue vests. Let them see that vest. Let them come up and poke it. As a police officer, I went to high schools, and it was a part of the recruiting. They come up, do you guys wear a bulletproof vest? Do you shoot people? Is your gun full of bullets? They ask these basic questions. Corrections, you have to think this way too in your presentation. They may want to come up and see that the bulge under your shirt, that's a vest. Yes, everybody working inside wears a vest. And the agencies that don't have vests, why not? I made a video. There's a couple links in there on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, Sergeant Beast Larson. And it was regular video, and I asked a question about vests. And there's a link in there. There's agencies. Officer Down Memorial page, number 1. There's another link, and it just slipped me off the top of my tongue. But it's in there where there's nonprofits that donate money for officers to get vests. Also, police departments have programs, like we did. 5 years, point blank would replace our vest. We turn it in, And then those vests would be given to smaller agencies that couldn't afford them, didn't have the grants and the grant money. Welcome, everybody. Thank you there, MB. You got gun. Hello, hello. Yes. Go ahead with your question. While I'm talking here about presentation. So you got somebody in shirt and tie like this. You've got somebody in uniform with a vest on. Then maybe have one of your special ops guys show up. You know, like grab this from my hat collection. You know, your CERT team. Have a CERT team guy show up, or you're somebody from your tactical squad in tactical uniform. So you're not just telling somebody you're trying to recruit. You're not just trying to recruit them to be in a dorm where they've seen these videos of inmates fighting each other. You want to show their special teams, their special operations, investigations. You want to show that there's sergeants, lieutenants. You show and explain that rank and talk about different positions there to let them know you're not just stuck somewhere. Do I know about Russian, right? No, I don't know about Russian, and I'm not familiar with Walter White serving the military after escaping. The next thing about recruiting is, what are you telling people? What are you promising them? What they see in a newspaper and they post in Indeed in these job searches, correction officer, you know, this much money. They make the hourly rate sound great. They may talk about shift differential. They may talk about, they don't explain what I'm talking about now, and insurance. They may say, hey, so they're trying to grab attention by hourly rate and insurance. So you lose people when you do stuff like that. They really want to know about the work. What is the work? What's the work like? You know what I mean? So you have to talk and explain. You need to have some pictures, show inside. Show them so they have an idea what they're looking for, what they're looking at. And that makes a difference to them. Don't promise them anything. Present ideas to them. Okay, go ahead with your question there, Carbeek. Now, one tactic that I was trying to do, and in Kentucky, I mentioned that it's the only state that the county jailer runs the jail, not sheriff. So I actually, 2 years ago, 2022, I ran for county jailer here where I live. And in my campaign speeches, I went around campaign and right along with the congressmen that were running for office, several House of Representatives that year. And it was a big, important. And then here comes me and, you know, giving a speech for the jailer. So one thing I talked about, and being retired police here in this area, I knew the police chiefs. I said that recruiting is failing, which is also why there's a lack of retention. If you don't recruit right and get the right people, you won't get people to stay. So I said, we need to have a partnership program. Police have what they call a ride-along program. And I had 3 different police chiefs give me the thumbs up, and also at the airport do a ride-along program. So when correction officers get through and they complete their training, their basic academy training, then schedule a ride-along once or twice a month with a police officer, so they kind of get to see a little bit of the police as well as the correction. Now, a lot of times here, you know, they get hired in corrections as a stepping stone to law enforcement. I'll change your mind. ZC, I'll change your mind, please. Stepping stones are good. And if I became jailer, I knew I would hire some that eventually would leave and go to police. But in doing that, the program is a success by doing this interdepartmental training. Then get a couple officers to come over and see what corrections do, come spend a shift with the correction, but have these correction officers doing a ride-along. And this can work on the sheriff's department where they have to work 2 years in the jail first. Let them do some ride-alongs. Let them see the other side. Let them see as they arrest and bring people in what happens before somebody gets to jail. And that becomes very important. It's really shows the other side of what's going on. So then you get better partnership between the road police. They get to see the progression and what's on that agency they get into, different than corrections, and vice versa. I've made videos about that on my channel, why they need to do that. But as I campaign to become jailer, this is one of the promises that I could keep because I had agreement with 4 police chiefs. And that was an awesome program. I used to be 79. Thanks, Joe Buck. Hey, welcome, Joe. Glad to see you, brother. Glad to see you on here. You look good too. My good brother here went through some serious surgery, and he's recovering well. Proud of you. He's also representing Philly today. So that's a tactic. You hire people, you do this. You give them promises that you can complete. Now, everybody's seen these videos, wild videos inside of jail, and they're fighting, and they see the Cook County up there in Chicago, and it is crazy up there. My writing partner, Timothy Amdahl, we've wrote 2 books together. He worked in Illinois state prisons. A lot of people, a lot of gangs come through there. So we wrote about a lot of problems and issues, identify them, admit to them, admit to the corruption, be upfront and be open. Hey, this stuff kind of happens. But you got to also talk about the good and the positive. Yes, they had good health benefits working because you're working for a state or for a county. You have great benefits and great retirement benefits. But you need to get through the day. So you recruit the right people. Do you recruit 18-year-olds straight out of high school that's never worked anything but fast food? You can, yes, but you also got to screen them a little bit harder. Do you recruit in college? College, absolutely. And by doing that, and I did this as a security director in a mall, I would go to the colleges and the law enforcement program and talk and say, look, you guys want to get in police officer? Here's many different jobs. Security jobs, and as a director, I was making really good money. And I was an instructor of many things there. So I tell them, you want to be police and do this? I'm hiring here at the mall. And I had two security officers come from college to work for me at the mall in Michigan. And I got both of them. I helped them prepare for the interview and the written test. They became police officers in Detroit. And they're still there. And this goes back to 2012, 2013 time period. So they've been there over a decade as a police officer. So you go to the right programs, to the law enforcement programs. What this means is, what do? We're all right now networking. This live video allows me to network with people that I would not normally be able to reach and talk about the law enforcement community as a whole. Police, corrections, security officers, bail bondsmen. I'm a moderator in the bail bondsman group on Facebook. Great group. Jason Briggs, a great young man. A lot of training with his bail bonds people. Training. I mentioned that to say this. When you go recruiting for corrections, talk about the training that you give. And you have to fulfill that training promise. You have to tell them, you get this training and this. You have annual training, quarterly training. You get training with your sergeant or lieutenant. And what really needs to happen in the shifts I was on, lieutenants always loved to have me because I would train. On slow days, on the weekends, you get through, at the prison in Georgia, they would have breakfast and have a dinner around 4 o'clock. There was no lunch. So between those 2 meals, there's no doctor visits, psychological telesat visits, dental visits. You didn't have these things. You weren't passing out stuff from the mail. The mail didn't run on Sunday. So it was a great day to go around for me to do training with officers. And the training would be about anything that they want to talk about. I had 2 dorm officers in a control room. They'd do the rounds. They'd meet up. I'd spend maybe 10 minutes talking about something, go through some hand-to-hand techniques, practice, wrist locks, arm locks, handcuffing, anything they want to practice. So that's a promise they could fulfill. Unfortunately, I was the only sergeant that would go around the shifts and do that. So the other shifts, that was lacking. So that was almost false advertisement because it only happened on my shift. So you have to have supervisors that are capable of training. So you got to explain things right. Your presentation by different uniforms needs to be right. Talk about training they can get, how the training can advance them, and how there's something in place. We did have something. We did have study guides they passed out to promote to sergeant and lieutenant. So that promise was fulfilled. So I don't see any ideas here yet from anybody asking or telling me how their training went. So, okay, here's your question. Besides physical training, what other types of training do you offer? Everybody gets certified in first aid CPR, which is great. I never used CPR in the correction setting, but as a law enforcement officer, I did CPR 18 times. I used a defibrillator 6 times. In all of that, I was able to save 2 lives. And if you look at my channel, my regular videos, you'll notice I saved a 72-year-old man, shocked him and saved him, and I saved a baby, 3-month-old baby, and a wedding. And that probably was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So you get CPR training, you get firearms training. And depending on what state you're in, and this is good and bad, some states have better money for training and they train more. So that's something you need to look in as well, training and make yourself comparable. We did firearms training once a year. When I was on special operations teams, the CERT team and the tactical team, we also qualified. So I was fortunate by doing that in special operations to shoot every quarter. So that was 4 times a year. So that's a lot more than what the normal officer would get. So firearms training, tactical training, now we did cell extractions. So I used a cell extraction opportunity for training. And when I was on the CERT team, we did a bunch of them. When I got promoted to sergeant, I still was involved. I was the shield man, or I would pick out 4 people and get them lined up. And that gave me opportunity. And I was on different shifts, so I got to be exposed to different officers. And I made a video on this about cell extractions too. So I would talk about what's the shield man's role. He goes in with the shield, trap the inmate so they can handcuff him. Well, that always worked. It always didn't work. It sounds good. It doesn't sound good, but it's a good hit them with that shield real hard and they learn how to do this. It's a good stunning technique. So I would teach stunning techniques, which is not only the shield, but how to strike people with your hands, your forearms, elbows, knee strikes, because I was certified in teaching self-defense for 27 years now, by Kentucky law enforcement, Kentucky and Ohio. So I would teach that. And then I would teach the handcuffing techniques. I would teach balance displacement, the different PPCT, which I explain in my videos. So these officers would go in, they would know each one of the 4 had their specific role. One of them has the role of just a feed. An electronic shield delivers a nice shot. Yeah, thanks for that comment there. Thanks for joining. Who dat? Yes, they do. We did not. Georgia didn't go to the electric shock unless that's something recent, but I left there in 2019. But I know locally here, they do have the electric shock shields and an electric wand. So yes, those electric things work pretty good. We used the sergeants and lieutenants would carry a taser, and it would shoot 2 cartridges. You would shoot it, or shoot twice. Shoot it, you could hit the side button, and it would load the second, and you could shoot the second. And I had a older officer, older than me, buddy there. He was the master when 2 inmates. First Amendment Constitution. I'm not going to talk about the First Amendment. We're talking about recruiting and corrections here, but thanks for asking. My buddy, he could shock both inmates fighting. He would cycle it and shock the other one, and then hit the button. He could shock them, continue again for 5 more seconds. We get the handcuffs on. But freedom of speech, the First Amendment talks about the freedom of speech. It's great having the freedom of speech. When you're recruiting, you have to be honest, and that's important. And unfortunately, I've seen lieutenants at the prison go and promise things and promise, My best buddy Will, he always was my partner in the tier units and segregation. He was promised to be on the prison basketball team. Will was tall. He loved to play basketball. You know, he's about 6'3", 6'4", and he got there, and they're like, "We don't have basketball. We don't even have soccer. I mean, we don't have softball. We don't have anything. We may let the inmates go out on the big yard, we called it, where they could play ball. They could play, softball, or they could play football out there. But no, but that's how the lieutenant recruited him. Hey, Pennsylvania Preparedness, good afternoon. Pennsylvania Preparedness, working at Corrections Up Pennsylvania. Everybody check out his channel on YouTube. It's a prepper type channel, and he goes hiking. Got a lot of great outdoor adventure on his YouTube page. Everybody join. And I know he was on the road to 400, and I shared with some friends. Hopefully got him about 10 to 15 more subscribers, and he has hit the 400 mark. Let me know, Prep Pennsylvania, if you have that. But here, so he can't promise. Promise my friend Will. He just got out of the Marines. Hey, yeah, you'd love corrections. You come do this and all that. You can be on the prison basketball team. We go compete with other prisons. No, there's not. They flat out lied to him. He did stay and work maybe 5 years or so. But you can't lie to people like that. They're going to turn around and leave. Long prisons in Vegas. Great. Thank you for that. State prison during the vid. Appreciate it. Yes. Yes. Thank you. So, what intermediate things do you tell people when you're recruiting? You can give them a brochure. You show them fanciness. You talk about stuff. What else can you talk about? You can talk about, we did continual online training that was required. Your basic, HR requirements, harassment, sexual harassment, stuff like that. We also had things that were specific about, corrections, perimeter work, interior work, promotional work. So you tell the people you're going to get continual online training, which it may or may not. You tell them up front, can that contribute towards college classes? It'll also help contribute towards a career in law enforcement if they switch over from correction to law enforcement. Tell them that. Some states, they're training we're always training that never stops. Good for you. Good for you. Take this training opportunity. Does working in corrections, do you get a discount at a local college? They have a partnership with a local college? That's something that needs to be explained too. That would help you recruit people almost as equally. Education is important to young people as showing them a vest and a fancy hat. Like, hey, you can be in special ops like me. You can go run all the time, do push-ups forever, and do dips, like me. That's appealing to some part. But you got to realize you're going to be appealing to everybody. Someone, talk about working in a female prison. You need to be able to recruit the females to be able to get into work that. Why would they want to do that? Sir, yes. Yes. I always post in videos all the time, hashtag squad life. Tax squad, search squad. That's what that means down there when you see my hashtag. Okay, you're a female. Great. Great. Thank you for what you're doing and working in there. And if you have any advice specific, I'm a male, was there any good things that you would say to get females hired to work in a female prison? Because that's a whole different thing. I never worked in a female prison. So what was the best appeal, honest appeal, to get females working? I know they would tell our female officers, oh, no, you don't have to work around men. You don't have to do that. There's only one female prison in the state of Georgia. And unless you lived in that town, you didn't work there. You worked in a male prison. So then all of a sudden you get females hired, and our lieutenant lied to them several times. We had a couple lieutenants that were bad about that. We had a couple good lieutenants that were good recruiters. So you can't lie to them. Pennsylvania, he liked the towers. I like the towers too. However, our shotgun and Mini 14 were older than I was, and they had as much rust as I had wrinkles. Makes it questionable. That's not the runs you qualify with. You qualify with the good rifle and good shotgun. The one that's in a tower stays up there, and your shift supervisor, lieutenant's supposed to inspect them, and that never happens. Another fail. Another fail. Shivam, well, where are you from? What country, what state, what area are you from? Helen, hello to you. Thanks for joining. Recruiting, as you can tell, I've been talking 25 minutes. It can be complex and it can be simple. You really need to have a good written down plan. Break it down, male and female. Break it down by age groups. Because 18, 19, 20, you're going to talk completely different than a 30-year-old that's married with kids that really needs medical benefits and a good, solid, stable job. You can't tell him stuff. You can't lie to the 30-year-old, male or female, the 40-year-old male or female. From India. All right. Thank you. So tell me, are you in corrections out there in India? Any in law enforcement related topic? Or are you just curious and interested in what we're talking about? Shivam, we'd like to know. Thank you. I don't know. We seen our recruiters, in Georgia at the prison, they would have a manual and a training guide, but I looked through it and my experience of what they said and what was going on never seemed to be what really happened. And that's unfortunate. I put a shirt and tie on to talk and explain this, showing the professional side. But every day I worked in uniform with this vest on. Never this type of vest, type of stab vest. I never worked in a shirt and tie. If in police officer, I spent a little six-week training period learning a little bit more about their role in a shirt and tie. Guess what? I wore a t-shirt underneath and I wore my issued bulletproof vest like I did in uniform under my shirt and tie. I was the only one that did that. And they said, "You're crazy." No, I'm not. I'm going out in public. I've got a badge and a gun down here on my belt. They can see it. Why would I not wear a vest? Yeah. Why would I wear a shirt and tie and a badge, put a bullet on my back like the other detectives? Hey, I'm the police. I'm doing this. Look at this. Look at my belly that I have or don't have. No, I want a vest on. I always had the vest on. So, yes, everybody, double tap to leave a like. Please, double tap. Okay. So, complicated, but it can be simple. Simple. What are you? I am not a lawyer. I'm retired police and corrections there, dog man. Impersonation's a felony. I'm not impersonating anybody. Look at my videos and you'll see. You'll see where I've come from and where I've been. Be straightforward. Be honest. Make a partnership with police. Make a partnership. Make a partnership not only with the city, with the state police. Build a program that in my opinion, will get the most respect out of people that want to get into corrections. Because break the barrier of police are better than correction are better than police. The police always say correction officers are not law enforcement because a lot of them aren't sworn. Correction officers don't think that you are all the time because the jobs are really different. You build and you mold it, and it's a partnership. It's like two brothers. Yeah, I tell people fair, firm, and consistent. 3 most important words. Who dat? Thank you for that. You just brought that out. Fair, firm, and consistent. And that's almost the definition that falls in of integrity. Doing what's right, fair, firm, and consistent when nobody's looking. That's how we were taught. Back to blue. Old Texas Tech man. Thank you for that. Back to blue. And there's a lot of great officers. And like any other job, there's a couple that kind of aren't. It's all law enforcement. And in some states, I know out there in Nevada and Arizona, I have a buddy that some of you know the name Anthony Ganji. He's very high in New Jersey. They go through a state police academy that's probably 26 weeks long, if I remember correctly. Anthony's written several books. He's in a lot of groups. I had the privilege, his great, outstanding book called Inmate Decoding. I got to read the final draft. He emailed it to me before it went to the printer for print. Anthony is a great guy. Him and Russ, they have a group called Tear Talk. That's on Facebook. You're welcome. Thank you, Clayton, for joining us, Clayton Swinson. You know, it was a calling. And here's another thing, talking about recruiting. When I was teenagers, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you know, even back to being 12, 13 years old, I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be in law enforcement group, and didn't really know about corrections until I got into police. But had to be 21, so I got out of high school, still wanted to be the police. One of the guys in church was a city police officer. He talked to me. I went to the military, Air Force, 4 years, came back, and got into police work. Yes, Pennsylvania preparedness. And I've got a great video. I talk about 10 commitment points. But one of those is everybody makes it home. Yes, everybody goes home after every shift. Everybody. I worked at Hays State Prison in Georgia. 5 of my friends have been stabbed. One of them very bad. We have to wait till the legal stuff gets done down there, the charges of attempted murder, and he's going to come on and do a video with me. If you look on my YouTube and my Facebook page, Steve Beast Larson, I do show a picture of Officer McGill standing there next to me. It's a picture. It's kind of just like here, just our faces. And the comment, he was stabbed 13 times in the left side, in the face and neck area. One of them hit his stroke nerve. So he goes through many days that are difficult. And I actually interviewed the officer. He was hired 18 years old out of high school. You'll see it on my YouTube on the playlist interviews. Officer Grant, I interviewed him in the home. Shortly after this incident, he saved the officer's life. It was during lockdown at nighttime. He was up checking in and making sure the doors were shut. There was a couple inmates downstairs that hadn't went into their cell yet. One of them was talking to Officer McGill. Officer Grant was up checking, and he pull his shank out, started stabbing him in the neck, ran downstairs and maced both of them. Obviously, when they're, he's this close stabbing, it's really hard to mace one without the other. He just sprayed them both. Just get them on the ground, get it to stop. And then he got them separated. The control booth officer called for help. Help came, got them separated. They're both okay. They're both, honestly, I would say they're going to be a little mentally and emotionally scarred for life because of this. He's still alive. The prison down there, they kind of didn't do anything and let it go. And this happened after I left the prison. I called Red Dog down in Forsyth, Georgia. They're a company that they have supplies for police, boots, belts, pins, uniform stuff for police and corrections, both. It's right there by Gypstick, which is the Georgia State Patrol, Georgia Public, I can't even think what Gypstick stands for now, sorry. But the state police were down there for Georgia in that same town. And I said, this is what happened, this is what I want to do. And I ordered the Medal of Valor and had it sent to his home address. And then when he got it, we did a live video and we talked about it. And I thanked him for it. It was incredible. Very little experience, straight out of high school, a basic job like I'm talking about in recruiting. And this is where they failed. He wasn't prepared at 18 years old to be in this situation. And then afterwards, he's like, I don't want this. I've got a family, a wife and a baby, there that don't want this. And he left, he went on to another job. But I wanted to leave him with something from somebody like me that's been through situations like this and very violent and bad things. I wanted him to know what he did was honorable. And I interviewed him so I could publicly thank him and put it on my channel that's for everybody to see. how great a job he did. And something like that, and telling a story like that, is the kind of stories also you need to think about when you're recruiting and talking to people. Hey, there are situations that happen, and there's great officers that are there. They're there for you. You talk about the brotherhood that gets developed without lying about it. And you also, when they ask these questions, hey, police do this and that, and they cover up for each other and they lie for each other. You tell them no, they don't. You tell the truth. You don't allow things like this to happen. Yes, a lot of post-traumatic stress. Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania he comes on with us. I have a podcast with my other friend. It's called Prepper and Beast Hour, Wednesday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Prepper and Beast Hour. We have an official page on Facebook and post. You'll see also the links on my YouTube page. But Pennsylvania, we're going to talk about PTSD coming up in that, a little bit more for civilian type of situation. But I'm also going to do a video of this one day in about a week or 10 days. And I anticipate it'll be a couple-hour video to talk. Hopefully get a lot of people. I'm going to announce it. I'll pick a date and time, announce it a couple days early. But there's a lot. I have some formal training when I was police before corrections and dealing with this. Teaching use of force and defensive tactics, that was a part of my training. But the PTSD, that it hits people very differently. And, things that, thumbs up, absolutely. The things that I remember that bothered me, I was on a video the other night talking about correction retention. And then I was talking about this school shooting that happened down, should parents be charged? That's a great live video I made and talked about it. Got almost 1,000 people that was there watching. We were talking. Yes, you should charge the parents if you can prove they had prior knowledge. And like this guy going out, and the FBI's at his kid's house when he's 13, watching videos talking about stuff. And then they interview. I didn't know anybody that FBI came and talked to their house at 13 years old. You don't go buy a gun and teach them how to use it after the FBI leaves. And other stuff that happened, yeah, go charge him. And they did. That's why dad's in jail. And then I explained what they're looking at, and even the son, the problems he's going to have to deal with. But that's all in that live video. Check it out. That was a great video. But it's not the things that I've seen. The biggest thing that bothers me, being retired completely from police and corrections. And let me go back up here in the notes. Let me see who this was. Back earlier. Was there for more. ZC, are you still on? ZC asked the question, want to prove, in the book that I mentioned, and I'll show it to you right up here. This is on Amazon. Officer Perception, Surviving Danger. You see my name and Timothy Amdahl. It's on Amazon. We actually talked about corruption, and some corruption in law enforcement opened up so that we can come back later and elaborate a little bit more. But what bothers me, when you're taught this, hey, if something's wrong, you let your supervisor know, and they go up the chain of command and they take care of it. And come to find out, when you go to the supervisor and you talk about something, guess what? It doesn't go up the chain of command, and it doesn't get solved. Things don't get solved. They get unsolved. They get looked the other way, and they do get turned the other way. And that's the thing that bothers me most, is how much was allowed to happen unpunished. Here I'm out working my tail off as a police officer, protecting people and I worked a lot of drug cases. I worked interdiction on the interstate and did a lot of training. Tried to make things safer and better for everybody. And then we got people doing bad stuff, and it gets covered up. Never get in trouble for it. And then that really bothers me. And the same thing that happened I left corrections, and I'll tell you, they didn't let me recruit people in corrections. I came from law enforcement because I was very likable, but also I would not keep the secret. And here's a secret: a lot of times, unfortunately, in corrections, wardens, in the state level and some federal places, there are bonuses to be understaffed. And when you're trying to go recruit people in high school and in college, and you say, hey, we're 80 people understaffed, you just told them, hey, we're going to work a lot of double shifts. Yes, I was police. You're going to work a lot of double shifts. We're understaffed and overtime. You're going to have no life at home. It's hard to recruit and hire somebody when you tell them we're 80 people understaffed and you're going to go to work and not come home hardly. So you have to recruit better so you get better people and retain them. And then you don't need to tell them we're 80 people understaffed. Because then when they're going to ask, is there overtime potential? And you say yes. Define what yes means. Don't say just yes. Say, oh yeah, we're way understaffed and you're going to get 30 hours a week overtime. Or say yes, the average officer gets 8 hours, 12 hours, maybe stay over a couple shifts if they want to. But you have to tell the truth about it, because as soon as you lie and they get hired, they go tell everybody else. 3 months from now, everybody in high school is going to hate you as a recruiter. That's the thing. You lie to people, they quit, they go tell everybody. They post it on the websites and they go tell everybody. What do I do now? I was a police, Melvisha Faulkner. I was Air Force in the military, and I worked police and retired. I worked in corrections for 4 years, and I'm retired from that. And right now, I am doing absolutely nothing. I use the word disabled. I had spine surgery. I've done so much fighting training and strongman and powerlifting that back in end of March, I started having pain down both my legs, started falling a whole bunch. I went to a spine surgeon on a Tuesday, and I had spine surgery the following Friday in April. So now I have screws and rods, L4, L5, and a cage in there because there was no disc. Had 2 nerves repaired. So I am retired. I've written 2 books. The other book I've written, also on Amazon, is called Why People Kill, with my partner Timothy Amdahl. We have been around and talked about, murderers, many murderers, and serial killers. And I actually, there's a part in here I talk about, and he's from south of the border. He was a hitman for the MS-13. He was one of their enforcers, and all he did was go and kill people. Killed 56 people. And he was assigned to me. The warden called me in his office and said, hey, I got a special case here. Inmate come in today. He's coming today. And I'm going to put him with another inmate. Nobody knows, but both of these guys have stage 4 cancer. He said they're going to be together. He said, don't worry, they're opposite gangs and that, but the gang problem isn't anything. They're both over 50. I've already talked to the other guy, and they're going to help each other in the last days of their life, being both stage 4 cancer. So he came in, I took him down, had an officer with me. We did our 2-man escort, put him down in isolation, and I looked at him and I gave him a nod like, hey, I know, I'll be back. I got a few questions. So I came back a little bit later. I did my mandatory 3-cell inspections, and that was one of the cells. So they cuffed up, they went in. I took an officer that was close to me working in the tier that would keep secrets, and we went in, we asked some questions. I needed to know exactly their stage 4, the medication that they needed. If they were diabetic, they had seizures, anything like that, medical, anything I needed to know. In a New York Minute Karma. So, well, it's having cancer, 2 murderers, karma. I agree. I just did my job as a supervisor in charge of that unit to make sure that they got fed and got everything like everybody else and protected them. They were both waiting to go to the medical prison down in Augusta, Georgia. And it was my job to keep them alive and do the best I could. And I was one of, when When I left the prison and I had talked to him the day before, he got transferred within a week and passed. He didn't get to have that experience, down there at the other prison. So he said, I'm not sorry for what I did. And you got to read this book. He tried to kill his first person. He was 8 years old. No father. He lived down, way down south, south past Mexico. No father, just mother had kids. And he became the man of the house. And he realized that people in the gang, in the MS-13 down there, they had money, their families were eating, so he became the man of the house. He started doing stuff for them, started going around collecting money, whatever he could, moving drugs and things, and started to be able to buy food for his family. And that made him happy. And he liked to fight and got in a couple fights, and they decided, hey, here's a test. You want to be this, you want to be important, you go kill somebody. And I asked him, how did you feel? You're 8 years old. How did you feel when you went and stabbed that first person? And he said, I was scared. I was scared. I went and stabbed him hard as I could. And I said, what happened? He said, well, they didn't die, and the guy started chasing me. So I ran as fast as I could. I said, what happened after that? He said, I practiced. They didn't ask me to kill anybody for a while. He said, but I practiced, stabbing bags of beans and sand or whatever he could, practicing his stuff. And he was 12 when he committed his first murder. And I'm not going to tell you the rest. You have to buy the book, or you have to come join the video when I talk about PTSD. Because he told me exactly the same thing that a major from West Point Army Military Academy told me about how to deal with death before you go to bed at night. And it's ironic that up and becoming enforcer of the MS-13 knew the exact thing to get peace in yourself as this Army West Point officer did. So that's a secret. You got to come back for that. Amazon, you'll find both of these books. Officer Perception, Surviving Danger. I'll get this a little bit closer. You can see that word. And Why People Kill, Looking Deeper for Answers. And at Tim and I, we may, hopefully in the near future, write some more together. So, yeah, the answer is not whiskey, Pennsylvania. It is not. It is not alcohol. Not alcohol, and it's not drugs. It's something you do sober, and it's something you do, I'm giving it away. Can't do it. Sorry, brother, you got to wait. That's an important thing to let people know. When I was in high school and the police officers came to the high school when I was a senior, and, oh, you got guns, you got to do this, do you kill people? They always ask people, do you kill people? In corrections, if you go recruiting like I did, and you show up and you're talking to people, oh, what are you doing there? You just go in the cell and you beat people all the time. What kind of answer are you going to give to that? Do you beat people all the time? You got to give professional answers. No, you're going into the cell. No spoiler, yes. You have to explain what they're doing and why you go into the cell, and you correct it. You handcuff them, you remove them. They're flooding, they're doing this, they knock the sprinklers out. You tell them, hey, you may see an inmate covered in baby oil. I've seen inmates covered in soap so that you can't get them, or baby oil. I've seen inmates covered in toothpaste that want to fight. And I've seen inmates covered in feces. So you tell them that. What do? You put a hazmat suit in and you go in and you spray them with mace. You give them instructions. They get down and they cuff up. If they don't, you hit them with the shield, knock them on the ground, and you cuff them up. And you go spray everything with bleach because you just got feces all over your shield and stuff. And then your officers, what do? You go jump in the shower in your uniform. You clean yourself up. You rinse and everything off. And then you go out to your trunk, because every officer carries that extra uniform in their trunk. You have to be prepared for these situations. This is the key to recruiting. You don't just show them pretty stuff and a pretty dude like me with a shirt and tie on. You show them uniform, you show them the vest, you show them the duty belt you're going to wear, the equipment that they're going to actually wear, the boots. You tell them this. You tell them how the academy is going to be. Haha, Joe. He liked that I'm pretty comment. I know he did. I've known Joe for, wow. My daughter had a crush on his son about 16 years ago, 15 years ago. We were neighbors. But you have to explain everything. You have to be able to tell them this about, do you beat people? Do you kill people? No. And you explain to them. So you're going to have to tell them like you understand the law and the policies and what's going on. That's how you become a good recruiter. You listen and then you answer. You open, you explain. See, I've taken 50 minutes talking about this kind of topic because it's important and because I care. I ran for political office to be a county jailer here in Kentucky so that I would be in charge of how the recruiting happened. It's not just a flyer stick on the wall. It's not like this Uncle Sam joined the army and that's it. You've got to be show up in person. You got to go everywhere. And Pennsylvania is telling everybody, don't forget to double tap, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share this, talk about this. Let's grow. I am, and very limited with this spine surgery that I had. Can't lift over 10 pounds for a year. Can't bend or twist. So y'all are going to see me sitting here in various shirts, ties, prison shirts, different shirts, military shirt, police shirt, whatever, sitting here in the room and by the desk, in front of the printer and the books. You're going to see me a lot for a year because I'm going to talk, and teach and train. That's what I've done my whole life. 29 years in uniform. So I'm here to help those to safely get through their careers and navigate, promote. I talk about promotions, everything. Get you hired, get you in there, get you to have a great job, a great career. And we're going to talk about in videos to come after you retire, because it is, you do get shell-shocked from the world. You go into corrections and you're yelling, you're talking to people, no, you say no all day long, no this, no that, we're doing this, no. Stop, get your hand out of the flap, stop doing this, stop, no, stop. They need to learn how to say that, no, all the time. Then when you come home and you're in a situation, you can't turn around to your spouse and your kids and say no all the time. I don't dare say I've been married, 5 years after corrections, very happily. And I'm going to talk about this. I made a video, but I'm going to talk live about it. I did, and I wanted Casey from before. I left the prison. I left corrections because I was working undercover. Yeah, don't bring home. It doesn't go well. In Pennsylvania, you don't know this yet, from the podcast with the prepper. I left corrections because I spent 4 months undercover with a state agent undercover. The corruption at that prison was so bad, it was all the way up to the warden sending naked pictures of himself in his 50s, and he was an ugly fat slob. Don't like him anyhow. To females for promotions. Hey, have sex with me. That's what the warden was saying. Here's my naked picture on my state iPhone, and I'll promote you to sergeant. Well, he got caught, because you know what? You can't erase what's on the videos in the cloud on your state iPhone. He got caught. And other things. He was looking the other way for other things. The captain there, the one that actually put a hit on me, which is a great video. I talk about that. 3 inmates tried to stab me at the prison, thanks to the captain, but it didn't work. And I told the captain, hey, why don't we go to the parking lot like men? Like WWE SmackDown. It's an invitation. I'm not threatening you. I'm inviting you. It's time. I don't smoke, but it's time for my 15-minute smoke break. This was right after he sent a 6'4" inmate to try and stab me and fight with me. And I broke his face and he ended up in the hospital. Bad luck for him. Don't pick on somebody that spent their whole life teaching people how to fight. Yeah, stuff going on like that. So we had that, the sex, the drugs, the money, all that corruption going on. My investigation led me to the point where the warden and the deputy warden, unit manager, captain tried to set me up big time. So I resigned while I could stop and control them not setting me up. And then the state came in, and you know what? HR and the commissioner of Georgia Corrections overlooked it But you know, when you send an email on a state computer to this somebody else on a state computer, gee, it's not erased, it's still there. So it got found when I called somebody else that was high up, and they opened internal investigations. I spent 3 days with internal affairs. Then I went to the FBI, did all this. Now Department of Justice is all over the state of Georgia for a few years. Y'all saw this back 6, 8 months ago. Smith State Prison warden arrested, bringing in contraband issues. Yep, I gave them information that led to that stuff down there at Smith State Prison. That sorry ass son of a B word, of a warden he is. He gonna do federal time. My shift lieutenant, she was actually a gangster disciple. She was charged with drug charges, everything they found in her house. And then the feds also charged her with being an active gang member working in corrections. She got 20 years federal time. 20 years. And after all her snitching, she only has to serve about 3. So you know what happens when somebody goes to federal prison? They find out you got 20 and you're serving 3. Everybody knows you're a snitch. So her days were numbered. But that was her problem. That was her problem. Yeah, Kenwood 709, it's bad. She actually took a whole, on tax squad, we went to another prison to do shakedown. And this is something else you can tell in recruiting. Our tactical squad went from, we would go get a call out. We searched the prisons. I've searched death row twice. We found homemade handcuff keys that were made out of metal broken from the light fixtures. They actually opened a handcuff on death row. There was 3 keys found. Now that's pretty bad. But she actually had a gym bag, the same size gym bag that we had. It was full of tobacco. She was sneaking into an inmate while we're supposed to be searching the cells. She was going to have this bag and just coincidentally drop it off her shoulder and kick it in his cell with her foot to some other GDs. That's the corruption that we dealt with. I hate corruption, and that's why I left and I came to Kentucky, and I got my 2-year. I had to live here in the county for 2 years, and then I filed, paid my money, my it was $100, $50, I don't remember now. I raised the money, so I paid that and filed and ran for jailer, and I almost won. So I could make a difference and have an honest and uncorrupted jail. But that's what it takes to recruit. That's what it takes to recruit. Somebody who's dedicated and wants to take the time to people and talk and explain. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks everybody for joining. Pennsylvania for joining in again. Everybody look up his YouTube channel, Pennsylvania Preparedness. Give him a sub. Check out his videos and some likes there for him. Great guy, great channel, getting outside in nature and how to survive. I love it. Thumbs up. Thanks, everybody. And as always, check out my channel on YouTube, Sergeant Beast Larson. Look at my bio. Look at the things. Watch and join. Ask me questions on the next live video. I've got about a dozen great topics coming up here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, depending on time. And, life is really busy. Thank you. And God bless you too. It's, being disabled and, it's been 5 months of spine surgery, but I still have days and bending over and getting my shoe on. Sometimes it'll really pinch. Having screws in your spine feels like an ice pick in the bone. If you move the wrong way, it's like, woo. It's like, and then you got hours of pain. I didn't take any pain medicine after surgery. I don't have any pain medicine right now. Doing it without that. Doing it with God and faith. And just being stubborn and being tough. Because my wife did it from surgery and I'm doing it too. But I have days that I don't, honestly don't want to make lives and talk and don't want to do a lot of video stuff. I just need a nap and a rest. I had a major spine surgery, so today's a good day. So I'm talking your ear off. But thanks again for joining, look and see all this stuff. And as always, and I didn't say this up front because it's not my number one priority in life to ask people, but you'll notice on bios of people that do lives and do podcasts, I do have a link to PayPal and to Venmo. Anybody that wants to contribute a little bit or $1 or something, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to be a long-term podcaster. I want to grow. I want to be big enough to be on Joe Rogan's show. That's a goal, to talk and be on somebody's show big as that. So I need to get some new equipment. I need to get to some places to be live video outside of prisons and jails that have, paying off these lawsuits for their corruption action. I can explain these to people and tell you what's going on. So I saved this for last because I'm not a person asking everybody else for money. But wrapping this up, thanks again. Thanks again. I did love being a correction officer and a police officer and being in the military. It did have some downfalls, but I did love it. I had a great experience, and it's helped me to build the person that I am now, who gets through the next part of my life. I'm a young 57. I'm happily married with kids and grandkids, and great friends like you all. The overall theme of this channel, I'm scrolling through. Self-defense and police get a lot more training in corrections. Kenwood 709. So I go through and I break down PPCT, pressure point control techniques, talk about how to fix broken correction system, some pointers, some tips about interviews, just a lot of correction topics, motivational topics for law enforcement. There are some exercise videos for people at home. Everybody doesn't like to go to the gym. I did strongman and powerlifting. I always trained at home because I didn't have time for gym. I had a family. So I have some dumbbells that I do so you can do a workout with me, just right there at home by the couch or whatever. Let's take a dumbbell and work some chest and back today, kind of a thing. We're gonna do 3 sets of 10. You don't even have to think, put music on, just watch and do what I'm doing in the privacy of your home. Just basic level exercises for health, and I was doing some of these. You'll see me. We had a house down there in Georgia. We rented on the top of a mountain, had a great view, go in a driveway and exercise. And as a power lifter, I do have some tips to improve your max bench press. I believe there's 14 tips there, but you can take that, not just bench press, but other physical activities, squat, deadlift, or whatever. But I teach people, a little bit more about breathing than they think about. If you're around me, if you worked with me in corrections, for instance, you better hold your breath for a minute, because when I spray that big can off, I'm letting the whole can go. That's the longest second of somebody's life. And then you got to think, you're in a dorm, you spray it, you got to get people here, you're holding your breath, you got to signal, you got to call on a radio, you got to signal to the control officer, waving, they got to buzz the door and get you out. So you may be holding your breath for a good minute if you're hanging around me. You're in the prison where Jody Harris's house. Okay. Live down the street from there. Great. Mobility stuff for those with some common injuries at LEOs. A knee, hip, and back strength. I do have some videos Pennsylvania when I talk about delivering knee strikes. And it's more with dumbbells isometrically than it is just, hey, you got to go do squats and deadlifts to build that. I do stuff and kind of show that a little bit. But I see what you're saying. Right now, physically, I can't do a lot to show the hip and back and knee. I have to be very careful how I move, or I'll get to screw into the bone and I'll be falling over. That'll make for a really funny video for you. But then I'll be falling and can't get up. And in Pennsylvania preparedness, you can't come all the way down here in Kentucky and pick me up. I'm too far. But thanks for the offer. All right, everybody. It's been great chatting and talking with you and visiting. Sub to my channel. Come back, see me again soon. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day.